All right, everybody. Hey, JB here and JC. Thank you very much. Thanks for being patient. Running a little late, but we are getting started. We are in November. Thank you for joining us for again another Ask Us Anything November 2025 event. JB and JC here. We are your hosts. Not only are we here once a month for you, but you're going to see more of us. We have some good things up our sleeves for the new year, so stay tuned with us into 2026. We said last month that we may not have a December event, but we are. We are planning an event in December on December 15th because again, we'll have some exciting celebrations and information to share with you. So there's our information. We'll put this up again at the end of the event. And those are our numbers. Call us or text us directly. We do not love email. A lot of you love email, but we don't love email. We love talking to you and giving you fast answers when you need them, when the customer is standing in front of you. We may not get to email till the end of the day or when we have breaks in other things we're doing throughout the day, including our on-site audits. So call or text. All right, JC, here's what we're going to look at today. We're going to do a quick legal update for you guys. There's a lot of chatter on the internet regarding some issues we just want to clarify and simplify for you. We've got ATF inspection update. We haven't seen a lot from ATF, being that they were off, for a month on that silly CR, continuing resolution issue. Nice to be a government employee, but they are back. We do have some information to share with you and some insights. We're going to offer some success for compliance. We're not calling it compliance corner this month. We're calling it compliance success. Got things to share with you there. Give you a little recap on the ATF from since 2024. I mean, they haven't said a whole lot. They're there, they're active, they're kind of our friends again, but we want to share insights into what you really need to remember and what you need to know regarding ATF heading into the new year. I'm going to play a little true and false, and then obviously have our best part of our session, which is Ask Us Anything. No question's a bad question. So when we get to that time of time of our webinar, go ahead and make sure you have your questions typed into that chat room. All right, let's see what we got going legally, guys. We're going to focus on Delaware this month. We were also able to bring you information that took effect yesterday. It's very important, but we did it also yesterday, or Saturday rather, work diligently to make sure everything on the restricted states guide has been updated. More information on the guide later, but let's go talk about Delaware. So we did talk about this last month, House Bill 451, if you can recall. We did have information regarding something happening. It was a bill that was passed actually almost 2 years ago, but recently they said, well, we do think this is going to happen, but we're not sure, and that type of thing. Delaware has been real sketchy on two issues that you need to know about. First of all, their House Bill 451 was to reduce the ability for 18 to 20-year-olds to buy firearms in the state. And the good news is, as of August 29th, it is affirmed that the citizens of Delaware, 18 and 20, 18, 19, 20-year-old can buy firearms. We did update our restricted states guide. It is official. And although this is the weird thing why we're telling you, it is not clear on any website as of today. We checked again this morning, or for the state of Delaware, or Department of Homeland Security for for Delaware, or the State Department, State Police Department for Delaware. No one's telling you it's okay. So that's confusing because the state's not telling you, and gun dealers in Delaware are calling us, asking us. We go out to the state police site or DHS site, and there is no mention of it. But we have affirmed through legal partners that we have that it's legal to sell guns, long guns to 18, 19, 20-year-old in Delaware. All right, again, we clarify that, put that on our restricted states guide with clarity. But here's the bigger issue, and this is what's critically important. There's an HQPP. Again, we talked about this last month. And the HQPP is Delaware's unfair requirement to have folks buying or wanting to buy a handgun to acquire a Handgun Qualified Purchaser Permit. All right. So yes, you have to jump through hoops. As of yesterday, if you notice the date there, it went into effect yesterday without any notice to any gun dealers in Delaware. Uh, it's not posted on the website. It's not posted on the state police or DHS website. It's not posted in any FAQ anywhere. This is really weird. So if you're a Delaware firearms dealer and you know where this might be posted, let us know. Drop it in the chat. We have not been able to find it, but we did confirm this morning with the DHS that as of yesterday, this is now law. Now, is this a sinister way for the state to go after gun dealers and hold you accountable for violations and criminal penalties? We don't know. But, and how about the customers? The customers are walking in today to gun dealers and they may or may not be able to purchase a handgun based on the gun dealer and whether or not the gun dealer actually knows about the law taking effect yesterday. This is really weird. It's happened in other states. It's also required now here in Colorado, which took effect in August. There's all types of states doing this, but we're not sure why Delaware is not talking about it. So here's what you need to know. If you're dealing in Delaware, dealing with residents of Delaware, have Delaware residents touring your area for vacation and trying to buy a firearm, here's the deal. You can't sell it to them. You can't and I wouldn't transfer it to them in another if you're in another state, they can't buy it out of state and have it shipped to their dealer without this Handgun Qualified Purchaser Permit on file and presented to you. It's illegal for you to sell a firearm to anyone without an HQPP if they are from Delaware. Very strict. Again, you can dig down deep into the law and try to find it, but it is on the books and it's in code right now and it is enforceable as of yesterday. We don't know much more than that. We know the customer has to go ahead and complete a certified shooting training course. They have to get fingerprints and photo ID completed and sent in. They have to go to their own state website and get a background check done. They have to apply on the state police website for their permit and then maybe wait 30 or more days to get it. Again, we don't know much, but don't get caught selling handguns to Delaware customers at this time, whether it be online or in the store. There's the number, there's the phone number, and there's the email for you to do the same thing. We did ask for information, and we have not gotten anything back except the fact that it's enforceable as of yesterday. All right, we did a lot on Delaware, but we're pretty upset at this one, and you should be too. All right, NFA challenged. This one is getting lots of press all over the internet, and we're getting lots of calls and emails. Just in a few days, it's been public. But on November 11th, which was this past week, more than 30 members of Congress have sent a letter, a signed letter and it's from Congress, to Department of Justice, Pam Bondi's office, copy the White House staff, and they are asking Donald Trump and the DOJ to take action regarding the upcoming change in NFA requirements and taxes and everything occurring on January 1st. They're asking for on top of all lawsuits already filed asking for the same thing and asking for a judgment, they're asking for the required items in NFA that are no longer taxed under NFA to be removed from the requirement for special forms and permissions and background checks for things like silencers, short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, and AOWs. Okay. And there's a very simple argument that since they're removed from taxability by Congress under the NFA Act, they therefore do not qualify as NFA items for registration. Pretty basic, pretty simple summary right here. The letter was pretty direct and explained exactly what we're putting here for you guys. If you can't tax it, you shouldn't have to require it to be registered. Why go through all of that? And is it even lawful? And the lawsuits and Congress themselves, 30 members, are saying they don't deem it lawful. So long story short, come January, it'll be interesting to watch. And this is one reason we still want to bring this to you in December, maybe have an update. Will Form 4s and Form 3s for the transfer between FFLs, Will they be eliminated for silencers, SBRs, SBSs, and AOWs? This is a big one because if the requirement to register is eliminated by January, this is going to turn the industry on its head. Everyone on here, even if you don't have an SOW, basically will be looking forward to selling these items alongside all the other firearms in your store and you know, buying them used, pawning them, etc. So this is going to be a big issue. We're very excited about what happened this week, but that's as much as we know. I think this is going to be week by week, watch it happen type of issue, and hopefully we get an answer from DOJ, Pam Bondi's office in the next couple of weeks, and we can bring that information back to you. All right, that's the big news. All right, ATF statistics. We haven't seen these since last spring, right? April, I think, was our last publication of any type of statistics regarding ATF inspections. So here it is, the inspection update for fiscal year 2025 for ATF, which ended in September. Okay, we were trying to track it, and our numbers were higher. We thought there was over 9,000 inspections conducted. So whittle it down. They say 8473. That's fine. 8473 FFLs had a visit from an IOI this past year. And this is actually good news. 54% passed with no violations. A little more than half. Let's keep that in focus here. A little more means the majority, not by a large margin, a small margin. 54% had no violations. And we constantly hear that when we talk in adverse hearing conversations, hearings, and talk to ATF with you guys, maybe after a closing conference or a warning conference or during a warning conference. We hear constantly that the majority of FFLs out there can pass an inspection with no violations. Well, there's the definition of majority. When we look at it differently, you know, out of 8,400, 1,500 walked away, almost 20% walked away with a slap on the wrist, at least a slap on the wrist, maybe a long slap, maybe a long report of violations, but 1,500 were impacted in some negative way by that ATF inspection, and probably due to your own fault. I mean, you know, they're not creating any violations, they're just finding them. So our job here today, help you guys understand everything so you get it right all the time, and especially the first time. You don't have to fix your errors. So, but when we look at these errors and you add up all the bad things, okay, you add up all the yellows, you get 2,316 bad situations for FFLs today. Okay, that's pretty bad. That's on top of the ROVs, all right? So 2,300 and 1,500, there's almost 4,000 gun dealers out there, you know, worried about tomorrow, all right? Yes, we had 54% or a majority pass their inspections with flying colors. We love that. But wait a minute, more than a quarter of you out there who got inspected are in hot water right now. Okay, you got some type of adverse action. And again, our duty today and monthly is to provide you the guidance and education to get it right the next time and not have any repeat violations. And that's what it's all about. Warnings and revocations remain in play even without zero tolerance. You know, it's all the big stuff. Anything to do with straw purchases, diversion, meaning to cartels and gangs, and buying guns from people who shouldn't have them, transfers to prohibited people, willful violations, repeat violations remain all high risk. Anything to do with the background checks, and a lot of those issues on the 4473s and managing inventory. So, hey, don't be reactive, be proactive. We love this slide. We put it up every month, and make sure you have your program in place to get compliant. All right, remember, start typing those questions in there. Hey, Michaela, just looking over at my questions here. I got a perfect score on the ATF audit. Congratulations, ATF inspection. So, JC, we got a compliance success here, right?
Yep.
This is how we're going to keep our viewers out of trouble. Are you ready for this? Here we go.
I'm ready.
Yeah. We're calling this troubling transfers. Okay, these are the big ones that keep getting you guys in trouble. All right.
All right. So sales to customer under 21 years of age. We seem to get a lot of phone calls on this, and believe it or not, more phone calls about the immediate proceed. And The FFL calls us and they're like, I just got an immediate proceed on somebody that was 18 to 20. Where's the 10-day wait? Well, you have to understand that 10-day wait period is predicated on whether or not there was any type of information available on that individual. And if there was, the delay period would actually initiate typically as a 3-day delay, not a 10-day delay. Now, upon the expiration of that Brady date, the 3-day wait, if NICS or the point of contact state is still waiting for additional information, they may tack on an additional 7 days. It's not an additional 10 days, it's actually the 3-day delay, which is normal for a Brady date, and then an additional 7 days. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to that, checking in the morning and in the evening when you close up, etc., just to see if you're getting those initial delays or that extended delay. And then obviously make sure you're recording those delays on the 4473 and the spaces provided. So you want to be careful of that. So once again, the 3-day delay, they're waiting for information. If it comes in the 3 days, they may decide to release it. But if it doesn't, and they're still waiting for whatever reporting jurisdiction, they may tack on that additional 7 days. Just a few things to remember when it comes to 18 to 20-year-olds concealed carry permits. They do qualify for NICS exemption, obviously for long guns only, because by federal law, they are only allowed to purchase long guns. Handgun sales are not permitted, even though they have a concealed carry permit. That does not give them permission to actually buy a handgun. And then, as always, remember, don't accept out-of-state permits, right, for your NICS exemptions. So, sales to out-of-state residents, rifles and shotguns only. That key distinction. It must have a buttstock and be designed to fire from the shoulder. It doesn't matter if it has a pistol grip or not. It has to have that buttstock. So you want to make sure that it meets that key distinction. Options for handguns and others for out-of-state residents: capture the sale and ship it to an FFL in the state of residence. Obviously, you also want to make sure that you do not accept out-of-state permits for the NICS exemption, and you want to make sure that, especially when it comes to not only rifles and shotguns, but handguns as well, that it meets the rules of both states. Every state, there's, I don't know, 30 something of them now, have specific rules as it relates to ammunition, as it relates to magazine capacity, as it relates to the firearm itself. So you need to be careful about transferring firearms to out-of-state residents, whether you're transferring it to them physically right there at your shop for those rifles and shotguns, or if they're purchasing a handgun and you're shipping it in-state. You want to make sure that you understand the rules prior to doing that. So
Yeah.
keep that
And
in mind with out-of-state residents.
yeah, and this impacts all of you selling online, gun broker, gun buyer, your own websites. I mean, you're shipping to somebody in another state. You're held accountable for those laws and restrictions. And some of the states out there will go ahead and come after you
Yeah.
criminally. You can do that in certain states if you become repetitive or if you disregard the law. And JC, when are they ever going to get caught? I mean, ATF's not going to really look at this, right? Or do they?
They're usually behind the times by a couple of years with everything. That's just the government in general. Their out-of-state guidance, the published laws and ordinances document, which is all available electronically. They don't keep up with it as much as we would like them to. So, but we do maintain a restricted states guides for you all. So just make sure and we'll talk about this in a little bit. Just make sure you're going out there grabbing the most up-to-date version, or making sure you're using the most up-to-date version. But
Yeah. Yeah.
you just got to make sure that you're following the guidance, because, as JB mentioned, the attorney generals in these states that are pro gun control, they're inclined to come after you as an FFL in another state if they think that they can get a good case against you.
Yeah. And be careful, places like Colorado with the excise tax. I mean, there's lots of crazy things going on.
Yep.
And the ATF inspect IOIs, they're going to know certain things. They're going to realize California transfers and New York transfers and
Mhm.
Illinois transfers all have special restrictions. But there's over 31 states now with some type of restriction. And when you're going to get in trouble is when your customer does something bad or
Mhm.
weird with the product you sold them. and it's all going to come back. It all rolls back on you, and the investigation occurs, and they figure out where they got that ammo or where they got that restricted firearm, and you're talking about high risk at that point.
Yep. And you want to be careful because ATF can cite you for a violation of state law.
Yes.
All right, supplemental documents, another one we get a lot of questions about. 26B. It has to be a government issued document. It doesn't matter what level of government, city, municipality, borough, parish, village, whatever the case may be, county, state, or federal. The information that's required to be maintained in 26B, really simple, issuing authority and the document title or type. That's it. No dates, no control numbers, no photocopies need to be attached, none of that. You just need to make sure that whatever you're looking at was issued by a government entity. And if you're not sure, you can certainly pick up the phone and call us, but you can also just Google it or go right out to that agency's website and verify it, or give them a call and verify it is actually a government issued document. That's really key. All right, customer ideas. We get a lot of phone calls on the not real ID thing. So let's take a look at the not real ID. So those licenses on the left, this is something that you may see on a driver's license. This is obviously Tennessee and North Carolina, a couple of examples. But you're seeing the not for real ID Act purposes or not for federal identification. This has nothing to do with you all as federal firearms licensees. If an IOI has told you that, they are mistaken. This has been confirmed over and over again with the ATF leadership. This has everything to do with transportation and homeland. This does not have anything to do with an individual attempting to purchase a gun. Now, keep in mind, the real ID thing has been in place for well over a decade. I can't even remember when it was originally enacted, but now states are getting on board with issuing real IDs, which essentially is just a requirement of a verification process as it relates to name, address, date of birth, etc. So keep that in mind. This has nothing to do with you all. The things that you do need to look out for are the things on the right side of your screen. And really what you need to look out for is just simply the words temporary visitor status, and an expiration date, legal presence, no lawful status, limited term, etc. FN driver's license is for a foreign national driver's license. These are the things that should, as soon as you see it, should invoke some thought, like, I need to pay closer attention to this transaction, because you're going to want to see what they put in 21M1, 21M2, what they put in their country of citizenship, place of birth, etc. You're going to be wanting to look at that so you can make a determination of which direction this transaction is going to go. Are they from a visa waiver country versus are they here on a work permit versus are they here on a visitor status versus are they from a visa waiver country? There's all these different combinations of statuses that relate to an individual who's a foreign national that comes into our country, and whether or not you can affect that sale, number one. And number two, if you can affect that sale, are you required to capture any additional information? So, no, not real ID. It'll be becoming less and less of a thing over the course of probably the next few years, because there are still a number of states, where people have extended term driver's license and such, and maybe they don't travel, that are going to wait until their license expires to go get a real ID. But you should start seeing less and less of those. So keep in mind, the ones on the left, not to worry about. The ones on the right, those are the ones that should send up at least a cautionary flag when you're doing a transaction to pay closer attention to that transaction. All right, guns as gifts, it's that time of year, okay? Just keep in mind that if an individual comes into the store and wants to purchase and is open and honest about it, I want to buy a gun for my girlfriend, my father, my brother, whatever the case may be, you need to make sure that you're qualifying their intent and qualifying what's going on with that transaction. Now, if they are purchasing the firearm with their own money and not at the request of another person, no payback is expected, and the intention is to truly give that firearm as a gift, you're good to go. That is the scenario. That is the only scenario where somebody can come in, purchase a firearm, and give it as a gift. They would be the one filling out the 4473, etc., because they are the actual buyer of that firearm. So obviously, best practices is always go with a gift card or a gift certificate. Get that individual in the door, make them a customer for life. That's your best approach to this. But not to worry, if their intention is truly to give that gun as a gift and not receive anything in return, then you're good to go. We talked about this just a minute ago. Exclusive restrictive states guide is available out at fflconsultants.com. If you've already printed one off previously, make sure you're checking that date down at the bottom of the form. This one will be revised 11/15 of 25. So make sure that you are going out and grabbing that most recent one to make sure that you are staying in the know of all those restrictive states. All right, JB, kicking it back to you.
Yeah. So, actually, JC, I think this is you, but we wanted to bring you guys up to
Ah,
date with just big things like that we've talked about a lot, and ATF is either still active with, but maybe not talking about. So,
yeah.
JC, maybe you can
Sure. So
bring.
this is kind of a 2024 in review. I apologize, JB. Yeah, this is 2024 in review, and some of the things that are still sticking out there. And one of them obviously is engaged in the business, right? Make sure you're paying attention. Obviously, you have an individual that's coming in, purchasing a lot of firearms, etc. You should understand their intention. You should understand what's going on with that situation for a number of different reasons. Um, More so to ensure that there is no potential for you as an FFL to be dragged into something that you don't need to be dragged into. If somebody's buying multitudes of receivers or multitudes of frames or buying, all the pieces, parts, components all the time of different firearm types, etc., make sure that you're aware of what's going on in that situation because you may get asked that question and you certainly don't want to be facilitating it. Um, Pistol brace rule. This is what 2020 2021 08F. Something to keep in mind. This is dead. We're still getting phone calls on this. This is dead. 100%. Pistol braces can go back onto those firearms that they came off of, etc. And you can now sell pistol brace firearms. You have been able to for some time now. So keep that in mind. Anybody who actually did a Form 1 during the amnesty period, they should have received their approved Form 1. There's probably some outliers out there that are still conditionally approved, but if they have gone through that process, they now have an NFA firearm. They now have an SBR registered with the National Firearms Division. Um, you know, if they want to remove it, they have to physically request it be removed. So if they have one, then they have an SBR and they can change that configuration as long as they maintain the original configuration. They can take pieces and parts off and make it into different firearms. The actual firearm itself is still registered. Zero tolerance policy, as we all know and love, went away April 2025. Took President Trump a little time to get that done. But one thing I need to call out, and one thing you need to remember is the zero tolerance aspect is what was in place per executive order, the zero tolerance. The rest of zero tolerance related to administrative action and, all that is going on with you getting revoked, all of those measures are still in place. That policy is still the same. If the ATF discovers willful violations, meaning you intended to break the law and you knew better, then you can still stand the risk of revocation. Now, the ATF is working diligently, the new leadership, in order to posture so that zero tolerance can never rear its ugly head again. But here's what I'm going to tell you just as much stuff as they can do administratively internally at the ATF, all well and good. But all it's going to do is require a new administration to go in and untangle it all. Until we see some sort of legislation presented that prevents the DOJ or ATF from being weaponized, zero tolerance can come back. So don't rest on your laurels. Make sure you're staying up to speed on all your compliance efforts. Um, whatchamacallit, next, Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Follow up on the rules and open letters, right? Right now, the only thing that's come out from the BSCA so far that we were waiting on was that stolen firearms check, which is now available both on the NICS site as well as potentially your point of contact state site. We're still waiting for the firearms handler check. We don't know. We're hoping for January. It was supposed to be released with the new 4473. The target is still January, so we'll see what happens. Until then, it is what it is. You can do background checks on your folks through other channels, through different background check providers, and pay for it. Hopefully, we'll see it sometime in January. Just know that even if it does, the new 4473 does come out in January, there's going to be a period of comments, which is 60 days. And then obviously they'll take back all those comments, figure out what makes sense, what doesn't, etc. Either implement any suggestions or decide we're just going to go with it as is. And then there'll be a period of time, probably 90 days, where it will be optional use of the new 4473. And then there'll be a drop dead date. So those are the big ones from the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Obviously, NICS, a lot of changes there over the years, a lot of which was put in place to benefit you all as FFLs. So make sure you're utilizing those tools to help yourself out as far as compliance.
Yeah, JC, since you mentioned it, we have not really seen any updated draft of the 4473, right? Since August.
No, we're probably 5 or 6 versions behind what we actually were able to take a look at. So we're still waiting to see what the final product looks like.
Yeah.
So here's some of the highlights, and obviously, you guys, if you want to go back and read through these, but this is the engaged in the business information. Obviously, principal objective of livelihood and profit was replaced with intent to predominantly earn a profit. So you are a dealer if, and they presented these examples, repetitively buying and reselling, marketing, advertising firearms for sale, renting tables at gun shows, or operating an online storefront. You're selling firearms on Gunbroker or one of the other sites. So you want to look out for that. Zero tolerance policy, follow up on that. The page is gone, but just understand that the language is still out on their website. So, significant enforcement action still is out there. So you need to make sure you're paying attention. These are the violations that can cause that severe damage to your license and reputation. And that really is, those repeated violations. You went through an inspection, you received a report of violations, and then lo and behold, they come back in 12 months or 3 years, or hell, we even had FFLs that were being inspected 20 years after since their last inspection, and they were being held to account. So make sure you're paying attention to the things that were getting people in trouble during the zero tolerance period, because just because they've changed their tune a little bit does not mean that you will not get revoked if you continually have repeat violations and take the approach of it's really not that big of a deal. It's a clerical error.
Yeah, I was at someone 3 weeks ago, dealer, and they hadn't been inspected in 7 years. So we were, you know, pretty concerned. And sure enough, they're getting inspected this week. Pardon me. So the concern is that we went back 2 years on their paperwork to make sure everything was great, everything was good. But already today, we know they've made highlight of, oh, we haven't been here really in 7 years, or it was really ever since their initial inspection and license issuance. So they wanted to know where all the paperwork was. So what does that mean? Well, we're hoping they don't go poking around from 5 or 6 years ago, because that paperwork may not be as good as it is for the last year or two. So just keep that in mind. ATF can look at your paperwork since the last inspection or from the beginning if you have never been inspected. So it's got to be organized, ready, bound books, etc. Just a highlight there. And JC, I mean, you said, as we know, the look and feel today
Right.
is more traditional. Back to what we recognize from the ATF prior to the Biden administration.
Yep.
But as you said, all this adverse action is still law, right? That hasn't changed aside from that one zero tolerance statement, right?
Yeah, the zero tolerance is the only thing that really changed. All the things that, negatively influence public safety is always been in place as far as administrative action. Granted, it took them a little longer to get there, and they gave you opportunity after opportunity, but in the end, that policy was never, it wasn't a new thing. So, and I think we've beat that to death over the last 3 or 4 years. So, what you should be doing, and we talk about this every month, treat now as your chance to reset your compliance operating model and ensure that you are doing that double check, that triple check of the 4473, the A&D record, the firearm itself. Make sure you're doing it before the gun walks out the door. That's your last opportunity, so you want to make doubly sure that everything is 100%. Make sure you're doing those mock inspections internally. If you want us to come in, reach out. We're happy to come out and do an inspection at a very affordable price. And we can come in and do training. We can come in for multi-day events. We can go the full gamut, and we have FFLs that have us come in once a year and do a full-on inspection. Just don't become complacent. Remember, we have those checklists that you guys can use to ensure that you're evaluating everything in the mornings and in the afternoons before you close up shop, just to set the reminder and the momentum of compliance. Remember, that works in your favor when it comes to if something comes up with the ATF and an inspection. That shows them that, hey, you were taking steps to try and be compliant. Just don't become complacent.
Yeah. Yeah. We always talk about coming out doing mock audits, but we're also available. We have dozens of customers that we do either 1 hour once a month or 3 hours a quarter with multi-unit managers or key personnel in different stores, especially, yeah, it could be a single store as well. We get some of those too, where you just have a lot of people, turnover, new employees, and you just need a good private Zoom event. Not everyone wants to talk on these public events or kind of air the dirty laundry, but yeah, we can get real personal. So if you need any of that type of support, let us know as well. JC, tell them about this little story. This is funny.
So we had an inspection where an IOI was given some guidance and it was misinterpreted by the IOI. So we went to ATF headquarters and asked some questions. And the main question was whether or not importers or manufacturers, because they are now required as part of 2021 R05F to record the country or countries of manufacturer if that firearm is imported. So, what the IOI was telling them was that you need to go ahead and document every firearm that's imported and put down the country of origin. That is not correct. It is only in those situations, and JB, if you want to flow to the next slide,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
only in those
Well, let me pause for a minute.
Sure.
I can't tell you how many, we didn't even realize how big of a problem this was, but this is actually published by the ATF, just as you're looking at it. When they did this new heading rather, with the ruling 2021R
Yep.
05F, they actually confused the entire FFL industry because I still have dealers calling about country of origin and how
Yeah.
do they put it in. We also have software providers out there who require country of origin on
Yep.
any firearm, even if you're a Type 1 or a Type 2 licensee. So this was very interesting that JC got to this. So here you go.
Yep. So the only time that country of origin is required to be documented by an '07 or an importer '08 is when that firearm is imported by that FFL. Now, granted, you got a 7 who may have firearms being imported on a select basis and they're marking them, accordingly, then they would also have to record the country of origin. But it is in only those situations. So if your software provider is requiring you to put country of origin, and you are not a importer or manufacturer of firearms, you are not required to record that information. So don't sweat it. You'll be fine. We have written guidance from the ATF, so if you need it, we can provide it with regard to recording the country of origin. So once again, it's only if you're the importer of the firearm. All
Yeah, and
right.
what's that a types? What license type is that, JC?
Eight.
That's 8. Yeah. So type 1, 2, you got a sevens. You guys don't have this on your blotter at all. This is not on your table. You don't have to deal with country of origin ever. Okay, cool. Very confusing. We were
Yep.
confused too. All right. What time is it, JC?
It's that time for true or false.
All right. All right, guys. Put your thinking caps on. Listen carefully. Read the words if you want to. But a couple of these are a little bit tricky. Let's see how good and how smart you are. Test your knowledge. Here we go. All right. State residents who win a gun in a local raffle can simply complete a Form 4473 and background check to obtain their firearm. True or false?
Let's
Assuming at
see.
the
We got a
dealer.
bunch of trues coming
Yeah,
in.
at the dealer. This is not at the raffle, but at the
Yep.
dealer.
Yep. That's just a reminder. Everybody's coming in with trues.
All right.
Yeah, it's just a good reminder there, JB, too, that, yes, absolutely. They want to raffle off a gun. As long as they meet all the requirements of conducting a raffle, that's neither here nor there for you. Just make sure that you're transferring the firearm at your premises. And remember that you want that customer in the store. You want to bring them in. You want to get them into, an add-on sale and build up that sale. So get them that cleaning kit, get them that case, get them the ammo, whatever the case may be. You want to get them those additional products to drive up that margin.
And remember, there's a lot of other restrictions and requirements if you are participating with someone conducting a raffle or holding a raffle offsite. So,
Mhm.
you know, yeah, get in touch with us. We have a nice little guide we can send you when that happens. All right. All right. If an IOI asks for a digital download of your bound book from your FFL software, you must provide it to him or her during an inspection. True or false?
Almost. Oh, we got a couple trues in there. Almost
And
everybody's a false there, JB.
yeah. And the reason, guys, these questions literally again come from the last 30 days of most asked questions that we field from you guys. So the answer is false.
Yep, totally false. And actually, the ATF leadership prefers that they not be given electronic access to that information, and to ensure that if you are electronically storing your 4473s, that the solution you're using actually restricts them to your operating hours and to the days that you're actually open for business. And the reason why leadership at ATF doesn't want their IOIs doing this is because they don't want them working off hours on inspections, etc. They want them conducting the inspection on premise at the FFL. So,
And the whole goal, if we all remember the tradition behind these inspections, is to help educate you as to what's going wrong, how to do it right, correct your issues, and gain that insight and understanding. So if they're sitting in a hotel room and you gave them a link to your software to do, 4473 reviews just to get it done fast, that's not efficient and it's not the intention. All right. And back to that question, you could always call us. I mean, probably twice, 3 times a month, we're talking to an IOI in one of your stores, telling them that no, it's not mandatory, and no, we don't want to give you a digital download on a jump drive. So once we get involved, they totally agree with us, but they'll push you and they'll push hard because it makes their job easier, but it also allows them access to all of your additional data and information. All right, if a customer does not know their exact city and state for Form 4473 Box 11, which is place of birth, he or she may just write unknown. True or false?
a bunch of falses coming in. They got that one. Absolutely false. They got to figure it out. And JB actually had a situation where an individual did not know where they were born. And we reached out to ATF, and they provided a resource for the individual to find out where they were born.
Yep. All right. If the ATF Tracing Center calls and directs you to refund money to a recent customer who transferred a gun but is now determined denied, you must do so when they return the firearm to your store. You must give them a refund because the ATF says so. True or false?
Well, lots of falses. Lots of falses. Everybody got it. That's right. There's nothing in regulation that says you have to give the individual a refund on the purchase of that firearm. You can do restocking fees. You can opt to buy it back at a lower price. You could be nice and give them their money back. ATF may ask you if you're willing to give them a refund to bring back the firearm. It's totally up to you whether you do or don't.
And we had one a couple of weeks ago where the ATF person, literally, or whoever was covering during the CR, literally said, the customer is willing to bring it back, and I told them you would give them a refund. So that's the ATF person talking to the FFL, and the FFL is like, wait a minute, I don't want the gun back, and I don't think that's my problem. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. All right. It is highly unusual, listen to the words. It is highly unusual that a customer who was proceeded on a background check will get updated to an open status at a later date, meaning after the Brady date expiration, maybe a week or two later. Can someone get updated to an open after being proceeded?
Lots. Yeah. Owen's got a true. Got a lot of falses. Got a few trues. Yeah, that's a big old false.
And we get this call every time because there's no place on the Form 4473 to document
Right.
this or instructions on how to handle this. Over at 27E, I think it is, where it says after the gun was transferred, your status, you were notified by ATF that the status changed. There is no box for open, but we do have instructions for what to do. Write a big note in box 32, identifying who you spoke with, the dates involved. Yeah, make sure you document that because when you go back and look in Enix, it's going to show that customer is being denied. And that could be what ATF holds you accountable to on your next inspection. Have your notes. If a customer's NICS background check is approved or point of contact state and control is approved, the FFL may allow the customer to correct errors on the 4473 after the firearm has been transferred, as long as the correction is initialed and dated on the 4473. True or false? After the gun's been transferred, if you notice an error, you can have the customer update to 4473. True or false?
I got a mixed bag. Yeah, somebody put copy only. There you go. If a customer's NIC background check is approved, the FFL may allow the customer to correct errors in 4473 after the firearm has been transferred, as long as the correction is initial and dated. Those of you that said on a photocopy only, that is correct. Make a photocopy and have the corrections made on that photocopy, not on the original. Once the gun is gone, that form is locked down. So photocopies only.
Now, again, another reason not to have errors and another reason to have a 2 or 3 time review before you hand a gun out.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you make that photocopy and attach it, guess what? You're providing evidence that you screwed up. So we don't want you to go there. We want you to have a better program and be proactive before the gun leaves the store. A customer with a foreign national driver's license. Hey, I think I heard about this one. With a foreign national driver's license may buy or transfer a firearm only when they have a visa and meet the exemption criteria on 4473 question 26D. So they can't, a foreign national driver's license can only buy if they're here on a visa. True or
No.
false?
Well, trues and I would assume a yes, a bunch of trues. One or two falses. Question mark. Mike Stewart. Question mark. I don't know. But you do have to sell it to them. You do not ever have to sell a firearm to a customer if you do not feel right about the transfer, as long as it's not non-discriminatory. But this is a false. You need to be paying attention, like we went over earlier. you may have a foreign national who is in a visa waiver country, who is in the country legally but does not require to have a visa. So just keep that in mind. In addition, you may have permanent residents who have a foreign national driver's license, and we showed you an example of that. So keep that in mind that just because they're a foreign national does not mean that they are permitted to buy a firearm or that they are exempt. So you have to look at each situation individually.
If your customer is picking up an FFL transfer, maybe from gun broker, and the item is not yet acquired, but that person's in a hurry. We get this all the time, right? They show up as soon as UPS notifies them their gun is delivered to your store.
I love those phone calls.
You may sell or transfer the firearm to them as long as you enter that acquisition before the end of the day. True or false?
Ah, a bunch of falses. There you go. Absolutely false. You must acquire that firearm before you actually can initiate the transfer of the firearm. That firearm has to be received by you in order for you to transfer that firearm.
All right. If an out-of-state repair facility replaces a firearm with a completely new firearm bearing a different serial number, meaning they sent you back a replacement gun, the FFL returning it to the customer must complete a 4473 and NICS check, even if the replacement is the same model and is being returned to the original customer, the original owner. True or false? Different serial number. Need a new background check? Need a new 4473? True or false?
Trues are coming in. Trues are coming in. That one false. Two false. There you go. So remember with this, it has to be the same type of firearm. In other words, pistol for pistol, rifle, revolver, and that you are not required to do a 4473 and a NICS check as long as it is the same type of firearm. And this happens when they discontinue a model or the manufacturer deems the firearm, basically unrepairable. And they just send a new firearm, and sometimes they don't have that model in stock anymore, or they don't manufacture that model anymore. So just keep that in mind. You can return a firearm to an individual if it's a different firearm coming back in a situation where it was brought in for warranty work or gunsmithing.
JC, what's the recommendations for documenting this somehow? Anything?
Just make a notation, replacement firearm. You can certainly keep any invoices or documentation provided by the manufacturer.
Maybe somehow put a note in your bound book of gun log, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
100%. Just a notation, something simple.
Yep.
Replacement firearm.
All right. If a customer begins a 4473 but leaves the store before the FFL completes Section C, the form must be retained forever because it was started regardless of whether a transfer or background check occurs. So all those initiated 4473s and answered by the customer and certified by the customer. Do you need to keep those if you haven't
Got a mixed bag on this one, JB.
haven't done a background check?
Got a mixed bag on that one. So they're really, if they've initiated the form, if you haven't initiated a background check, there's really no reason to keep the firearm. Um, void it out. You want to keep them. Chances are, if you're using electronic solution, it's going to keep a latent copy on the solution anyway. But really, in the end, these are basically worthless pieces of paper that don't contain any information that's necessary for you to validate or verify because you never whatchamacallit, transferred a firearm. You never conducted a background check. So
Yeah, if you're still using paper forms, this takes up a lot of space. And the ATF says they love for you to keep everything, but these you do not have to keep. All right, here's a good one. Get ready, guys. Here we go. Getting a lot of these lately. The Henry Axe picture below should be acquired in your bound book as a type equals pistol. True or false? Many of you have seen these, and the reason that they're becoming plentiful is different manufacturers are making them now. very similar model and type, and they're coming in different calibers. I think they originally were manufactured as a 45 caliber, but true or false? Type equals pistol.
False,
What do you
false,
say?
false, false. Lots of falses. You want to educate them on that? This is an interesting one.
Yeah, it's true. You can go anywhere, go to the ATF specifically. The original design of this firearm is to be used and held and managed with one hand. Even though it's got a lever action on it, you would think you have to use two hands to manage that, but it can be fired with one hand is how it, and it's not a rifle. It's not a pistol grip firearm. It is simply a pistol, and the barrel can be in any length. So we're getting a lot of calls on these, and I'll be honest with you, I looked this thing up a dozen times in the last 6 months, and I finally made a note to myself. It's a pistol. For some reason, we just want to find something else to call it, but
Yeah.
um, it is designated through ATF as a pistol. All right. Here's your second one. Let's see how many of you guys have seen one of these. This is the Black Aces tactical firearm. Oh, I forget what model it is, but anyway, there's several of them that are basically the same configuration, designed and built in 2014. It has a 10-inch barrel and a 27 and a quarter inches overall with the arm brace attached. Should this be acquired in your and this should be true or false? Should it be acquired in your bound book as a pistol grip firearm or PGF? True or false? What do you think? Is it a PGF? We've been talking a lot about PGFs over the last year, so we thought we'd bring this unique one up. And again, we're seeing a lot of copycats on this one, is why we're bringing it to your attention. What are you seeing, JC?
I am seeing yeses and trues and PGF firearm or other. Few falses.
Yeah. All
That
right.
is just a firearm. It is not a pistol grip firearm.
Yeah. One of the most confusing firearms to describe or identify. So it's not a short barrel shotgun. It must have the arm brace attached to be called a firearm. Take that arm brace off and is no longer deemed a non-NFA item. If you take that arm brace off, it is then a short barrel shotgun. So it's a little weird, but we're getting a lot of calls on these. I mean, 5 or 6 this month brought it to our attention to educate you guys with. So here you go. It's a firearm. Very cool firearm. About a $1,500, but worth it. All right.
$1,500. Cool.
All right. All right, just reminding you guys, we don't want you getting in trouble. These are the critical violations. Download the poster from our website, use it for training, and post it in your back room. Laminate it, hang it, and review it. Use it for training, especially
Oh
with new
yeah.
employees. We are on the road, even though it's December. We're still quite busy. We still got some visits this month. Trying to squeeze them in. Leaving tomorrow. JC, you're leaving tonight. December's pretty full, but if we're coming to a town or city near you, give us a ring. If you need us to stop in, you want a last minute 1 day inspection, or if you're one of our friends and want to have a half day pop in, we can arrange that too if we're nearby. So, hey, give us a ring. We're on the road again. And reminding you guys, we've had over 9,000 now. I forget that. We don't even keep track of the numbers anymore. Over 9,000 courses completed through FFL Academy, FFLC Academy rather. Basic training. We're hoping to get some of the additional courses launched soon. That's some of the news we want to bring to you in December. So stay tuned. Come back and visit. A great free training site for you and your employees, new hires, and people who just can't get the paperwork right. Send them to FFLC Academy. And JC, we did pretty good, right? We had a good month.
Yeah, we had a good month.
Yep.
We've
Good month.
been trust me, the ATF is out there cranking out inspections. So
Yeah. So all of you, Chancey, God, Chancey, me and you are best friends again. Justin, Janelle, Philip, Josh and Kim, Enrique, Lena, Jeremy, Justin, Eddie, Samson, Johnny. Will there be an ATF inspection or our mock audit? Congratulations, you guys made our days very boring. And I'm sure you had the same response from ATF. The nice thing is, if you're clean and green, they're going to get in and get out. if you don't have any errors for them to stop and start writing you up with, that's great, especially in the last 6 months of paperwork. They'll get in, get out, move on to the next person who's not doing as well. So do your inventories. Make sure you're doing inventory. I'm going visiting somebody this week, and I found out today they haven't done an inventory since 2023. So
Woo!
I am fearing. I know he's listening too. I'm fearing that visit, but I'll spot check what I can. But there's no way we can do a whole inventory in one day when we visit. Our focus more is the transfer of the guns to the public. So do your inventories, get them done any way you can throughout the year. All right, any issues ever from licensing to revocation, everything in between. And guess what? We know people. We know people that build ranges, insurance companies, distributors, big box, little box. We do it all. You got any question at all, just give us a ring. That first call is always free. We love talking to you guys and helping you sleep at night. So call us if you need us. And there we are, JC. We are at our favorite part of the session.
Yep.
Get your
You want to
questions answered. All
scroll
right, here's
through
how
and
it
get them
works.
all squared away?
Yeah. Did you summarize those questions or no?
I did not summarize the
All right.
question.
All right, I'm going to do my best here. I'm going to read the question. JC is going to give you the answer. If you ask the question and we don't fully answer it, please just hit that space bar. It turns into a microphone and ask and elaborate on the question if you need more information. Um, Anybody else got more questions? Just type those in at the bottom. We've got a lot of them. So we're going to get going here. Hope you can hang out with us for a while. All right, ready, JC?
I am ready.
All right. And again, this is being recorded, and we'll push this recording out this week to you guys out on our channel. But hey, Terry says he's reading the Illinois black powder rules, and he says muzzle loaders and black powder require an FTIP and a 72-hour waiting period. It must be new. I think we have that listed in our guide too. No recommendations or requirements from the state as to where to record FTIP number and customer information. What do you suggest?
I would just put it in box 32 on the 4473. If they're not providing some sort of form or something for you to complete that information, you can also always create your own form. So that's an opportunity as well. I'm surprised the state hasn't created some sort of form for them.
Yeah. Yeah, this is very similar to those states that have exemptions for holds and
Yeah.
different things. They don't tell you where to write it. Box 32 is a wonderful place, guys, for all your
Yeah.
details and extra notes you want to keep for those transfers. So,
Yep.
yeah. All right. Paul says, will the team be reviewing state requirements on NFAs? As I understand it, Colorado could fully ban NFA items if that is now Form 4 requirements. Unsure how other states view this too. JC, that was the issue you had when we were putting this
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. It's a great topic to bring up during the rapid fire. Listen, there's 13 states out there that have laws on the books that are actual state laws that essentially render NFA firearms illegal to possess if they are not maintained under the NFA. So really it becomes a matter of educating those lawmakers that are involved in this to ensure that those states where, you have potential issues, especially those blue states that, are maybe look at NFA firearms as more dangerous firearms, educating them on the fact that, hey, listen, these are, problematic if you remove them from the NFA because in these states, it could render those firearms illegal. So, remains to be seen. It's certainly one of those issues surrounding the making those legal and not requiring them to be registered.
Didn't you talk with Clyde on that?
I did talk to the congressman on that. I talked to him in November, no, August. Sorry, August, about that, and I guess maybe it went in one ear and out the other.
Yeah. A lot of it is just misunderstanding or lack of understanding, I guess, on that part too. They get, obviously the politicians getting a lot of pressure from all these other organizations and see all these lawsuits, and you know how that goes. It spirals. All right, Ralph says I'll put a comment on here, JC, before you dig into it. But Ralph says is this 11% of those inspected that gave up their FFL due to the inspection? A couple things, Ralph. First of all, the ATF has been reluctant to publish any details behind all of the state
Going to
categories and
Las
restrict
Vegas
and,
first.
and
Yeah,
inspection results. And then secondly, we're also hearing a lot about ATF. We didn't talk about this, but ATF downsizing, staff reductions, nothing public, but we have been hearing from many of you. Thanks for letting us know about reductions in staff due to what is public is the offered early retirement packages that the Trump administration is offering tens of thousands. I think it was 213,000 government employees. So there have been many IOI and retirements. We've also heard off the record from some of the IOIs out there that they're scheduled to get cross-trained as DEA agents. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on with the ATF. But back to this 11%, we do not know the details.
Yeah.
They're
Those
not
are
provi-
just FFLs that decided that they were going to surrender their license for any number of reasons.
Yeah. It could have been pressure. It could have been that conversation the ATF has, halfway through the inspection that says, you're not doing great. Have you thought about surrendering your license, et cetera?
Yep.
And a lot of these also, and I hate to say it, is in states where, like Colorado, we lost a lot of good gun dealers because they didn't want to apply for and pay the state fee to have a state license to sell guns. So they gave up their FFLs voluntarily. And that is just another blue tactic to shut down gun dealers and restrict the Second Amendment rights to citizens. So fight for your rights, support your organizations. Ken says, as an FFL, I can purchase items for my FFL when traveling in my RV. If I sold something to someone in a different state and it's one that I'm going to travel to, can I carry that item and drop it off at their FFL to transfer it to them, or am I required to use a bonded carrier or shipper?
Nope. You can just bring a copy of your FFL with you, as well as something on your business letterhead that says you're an employee or a responsible person with a license and you're in possession of firearms for business purposes. Even if you're the sole proprietor or only employee, it just behooves you to have that paperwork with you. I would have it in duplicate just in case, but no, there's nothing that restricts you from purchasing firearms anywhere in the country and moving freely throughout the country with those firearms. Just make sure that you know the laws and rules of the states you're traveling to and through to make sure that you're in compliance. So,
Yeah, there's a fine line between
249. Yeah.
Yep.
oh, you want to mute that, Jason?
yeah,
There's
I
a
got
fine line between transporting a purchased firearm across state lines to another FFL and peddling your firearms across
yeah,
state lines.
exactly.
Yeah. So legally, you want to have those purchase orders or sales completed before you leave your state with those firearms. Somebody will ask. All right. All right. Mike says, last week, a California FFL was trying to convince me that a stripped AR-15 lowers can be shipped to California FFLs and do not require them to possess a California assault weapons permit. He claimed only completed AR-15 receivers require a California assault weapons permit. Please clarify.
There are California compliant strip lowers, believe it or not. As long as they are truly strip lowers. FFLs in California do sell them. So, yes, that is accurate. There are California compliant strip lowers.
Yep. And Mike, if you need more on that, get in touch with us, the details.
Yeah. Yep.
On supplemental ID, since a hunting license issued by Department of Natural Resources, I would assume it qualifies.
Yep. For a supplemental document, sure, absolutely.
Yep.
And it would be, whatever the Department of Natural Resources, if it falls under the state, it's going to be state of whatever Department of Natural Resources hunting license. That's it. Not required to put control number, not required to put dates, none of that.
Yeah. We have a good little guide to send you if you just email us at info@fflconsultants.com. But the bottom line is any government, town, city, state, federal, even a speeding ticket with your address on it can qualify,
Yep.
or rather with the customer's address on it, right? All right, Terry says again, a non-licensee set up at a gun show wants me as an FFL to do a transfer to a customer. Is that legal? No,
Repeat that.
a non-licensee, non-licensee.
Oh, a private party transfer?
Yeah, no, no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Oh,
Set up at a gun show wants me as an FFL to do a transfer to a customer, meaning take the gun. I'm not taking it as a PPT, private party transfer. I'm taking it as, can you do me a favor and sell this gun for me?
I would kind of look at it as a private party transfer. There's nothing that restricts you from doing that at a bona fide gun show. I would consider that a private party transfer.
Yeah. Terry, I think it depends on whether or not the seller knows the buyer. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
it's who's possessing that gun at the time it's offered for
yeah,
sale is a question.
I look at it
Uh,
as a private party transfer personally.
but you also have to consider whether or not the buyer's there, whether you're taking it on consignment. There's a couple other things. So
Yeah,
Terry,
there's some nuances to it, but
yeah,
definitely.
yeah. If you got questions, specifics, yeah, give them to JC or drop us an email. All right. All right. Olin says, wait a minute. Left side says not for federal ID. So does Alabama. Yeah, JC, explain what not for federal ID purposes really means.
This is all about the Real ID Act and transportation and getting onto an aircraft and homeland security related matters. It has nothing to do with the purchase of a firearm. It has everything to do with getting on a plane, getting into an airport, getting into courthouses and things of that nature. It has nothing to do with someone purchasing a firearm. And like I said earlier, chances are you're going to start seeing less and less of these because everybody is being required to get on board with the Real ID Act.
Yep. That is a very misleading label on those IDs because
Yeah,
all of you have
it
the same.
causes a lot of confusion, but we have clarification from ATF from years ago on this. But it always seems to rear its ugly head every few years or every few months in some cases.
Yeah. I get that call twice a month, three
Yeah.
times a month. All right. All right. Olin says, can ATF inspect invoices to customers or other financial information such as pricing and costs?
They can if you give it to them, but otherwise, no, those are business records.
Yeah, so JC, ATF can look at what when they come visit you?
Your
Three or four things.
4473s and your A&D records and any required documentation that is to be affixed to the 4473, such as continuation sheets, multi-sale forms, perjury statements, overturn letters, etc. The only thing they are permitted to look at are those items.
They can look at your paperwork, they can look at your guns, they can look at your license on the wall and any other signage that might be required, right?
Yeah.
All right. Joel says, thoughts on closing your current FFL and applying for a new FFL every few years to mitigate being subjected to old transaction records and audits. Oh, Joel, great question.
We have some FFLs that do this. There are specific requirements around when you can do this. So I would tell you to reach out to us. You know, it may or may not be worth it in the long run to you. Keep in mind too that if you do submit for a new FFL, it is going to require what's called an application inspection, just like the one you got when you first got your FFL, which could also instigate a compliance inspection on your current FFL. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
In the old days, everyone had a type 1 license with a type 7 in the back pocket, right? We remember
Yeah,
those days.
a lot of people did. Yep.
Yeah. Now, if you apply for a second license, they're going to say, "Huh, why is he or she applying for a second license? Let's go take a look at what they're doing now."
Yeah, there are specific parameters around when you can and can't do this. So,
Yeah. And if you're in licensing, give JC a call. All right. Next one says, will the ATF be upset at that before the deadline I destroyed 4473s that were older than 20 years?
no, as long as you kept a record of the fact that you destroyed them and it was, you know, prior to the requirement of FFLs maintaining those records, for eternity, you should be good to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we used to publish that retention schedule, but that
Yeah.
went out the window, and
Yeah,
now
there
you
was
got to
no
keep
reason
everything.
to publish it anymore.
Yeah, I think was it 2018 that changed?
Yeah, something like that. I
18
can't.
or 19 they changed that. Yeah. All right. I had my initial inspection for a new location. Says buyer in here, and the inspector told me country of origin was not required. She showed me a standard bound book without that column, and said I don't need to put anything for country of origin. So she
It
was,
depends
whoever
on
that
your
was,
license
Byron,
type.
she was smart.
Yeah. Depends on your license type, seven and eights, and depends on if you're importing the firearm or not. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So the bottom line is importers, yes. Most everyone else, no. Joel says, how do you update your new business hours? Very important.
oh, that is an amendment to your license. You can call your examiner, reach out to us via email, info@fflconsultants.com, and I can get you your examiner. And you can reach out to them. Sometimes they'll just accept it over email.
Yeah, there is a form for business hours and address change, stuff like that. Send us an email, we'll send you the instructions.
Yep.
Doesn't make it untraceable. I'm going to skip that. I thought, getting through it. If I am using electronic system, can I still only provide paper to the IOI?
No, if you've said that you are storing electronically, then you are required to provide them with access to view those electronically. Now, the ATF can request that you print certain ones off for their records if they find something of concern or whatnot. So, but no, you need to give them electronic access. Why would you want to pay to have all those 4473s printed off? Because you would be required to print off all 7 pages.
Yeah, this is a big plus and minus discussion, pros
Yeah.
and cons to storing electronically your 4473s. But if you have more, Richard, if you have more specific questions, we could talk offline. Our goal, my goal, personal opinion is that we give the inspectors paper to look at that are in a file cabinet, but otherwise you open yourself up to everything in your system that they may have access to, or you accidentally give them privilege to look at. So,
Yep.
all right. The Henry Axe also comes in a 410 bore. Would one of those shotguns be considered a pistol also?
Yep. It doesn't matter whether it's the barrel is rifled or if it's a smooth barrel.
Yep.
Doesn't matter.
And when you look at that Henry Axe, even though you may think maybe it's a short barrel shotgun, a shotgun must have a shoulder stock on it,
Yep.
whether it be a 16-inch barrel or a 20-inch barrel or a 2-inch barrel. It's not a shotgun unless it has a shoulder stock. So that's one of the reasons that definition
The intent
works
to
for
be
that
shoulder fired.
Henry Axe or for the Black Aces tactical firearm we showed you. Okay. If a person under 21 gets an initial proceed from NICS for a long gun transfer, assuming it's still fine to proceed with the local sale and release of the firearm without any additional waiting period. So yeah, it's just a 10-day thing, JC.
Okay.
So
Under 21 gets an initial proceed from NICS for a long gun transfer, assuming it's still fine to proceed. Yeah, absolutely. You get a proceed, you get a proceed. That's, obviously, depending on what state you're in, if there's a waiting period, there's a waiting period. But once you get that proceed, you're good to go to move to the next step.
yeah. Hey, Terry, back to your black powder question, all that earlier. Yeah, there is no 4473 required for for black powder, your black powder sales or transfers by the ATF. Let's talk offline about how you can come up with a form and document what you're doing with those folks in Illinois. That's going to be a one-off. Probably have to create a form. Um, all right, Scott says, can I initialize the 4473 and conduct a background check when a customer comes in to inform a win of a gun broker auction, just not complete the transfer until after the acquisition date plus 3-day wait period and signing line 30?
Nope. You must have that firearm in your possession in order to initiate a 4473.
Yeah.
Same holds true for special orders. You cannot do anything until you actually receive that firearm.
Scott, believe it or not, there's only one state I know of where this has been wiggled through, and it's Illinois, believe it or not, where there's a 3-day wait or 72-hour wait between the purchase of a firearm and actual acquisition and transfer, and that the FFLs we've worked with in Illinois have contacted ATF to get a variance to allow them to do the 4473 and background check prior to the gun arriving at the store because it's an online purchase. Okay, a little bit confusing here. So Scott, you can probably contact us offline, tell you how we did that with the ATF director, just made contact, explain the situation. They gave several dealers directly, not all. I mean, you have to go get a variance, but get the ATF director to say, yeah, you can do that. So especially with where you have these 3-day waits, get in touch with us. We could walk you through some of that. All right, Shane says, as for the logging of all firearms, first question, is it okay to receive, log, and transfer firearms within the same business day? Oh, yes. We talked about, it was one of the true and false questions. So the one rule is this, very simply, you must acquire the firearm in your bound book before you can transfer it, period. That's the rule. It must be in your bound book before you transfer it. So you can put in your bound book 1 second, finish that acquisition in your bound book before you process it out the door on a 4473. You just can't do you can't do the acquisition after the transfer of the firearm to a non-licensee, to a customer. All right. All right, Judy says, if Minnesota requires a permit to acquire a handgun, does that also apply to anything with a pistol grip? We do require it just to make sure of it as it seems
No,
vague.
no. It depends on the definition of Minnesota's handgun, but I believe, if memory serves me, the definition of a handgun aligns with the federal definition of a handgun. So, no, that would not be the case.
Yeah.
Pistol includes a weapon designed to be fired by the use of a single hand and with an overall length less than 26 inches, or having a barrel of a length less than 16 inches in the case of a rifle, from which may be fired or ejected one or more solid projectiles, blah, blah, blah. Does not include device firing or ejecting a shot measuring 8.18 of an inch or less in diameter. So it looks like there's some measurement considerations, which I don't believe PGFs fall into any of those measurements.
Uh, I'll just add that you have to, if you're in other states, don't think this is every state, because some
Yeah.
states like Pennsylvania and I think Washington, they don't even recognize PGFs or
Hmm.
firearms as a type,
Yeah.
and they make you list those as pistols. So you just got to make sure you
Yeah.
follow those state-specific
Yep.
guidelines. Yeah. And don't be afraid to call your folks, your liaisons at the state offices. We call them all the time. They're great people. Yeah. All right, CJ says, when the ATF conducts an audit of an FFL, are they permitted to ask for details about how each customer paid, such as whether the transaction was completed with cash or credit card?
They can ask, but you don't have to give them that information.
Yeah. We get this all the time with these, what we call selective traces. We didn't talk about that in a while, but where an ATF investigator walks in and says, I want to see a 4473 for this customer on this date. And then they start asking you for all the business support documents. We recommend that you call us on those and use the proper language to decide whether or not you want to participate without a warrant or more formal documentation regarding your business records. It can get a little squirrely, but it happens very, very often with aggressive ATF investigators, not so much the IOIs. All right, Tyler says, it's been a while. I initiated a background check. Customer came back delayed. He left and didn't want to do the transfer. Do I need to notify ATF?
No, you file that 4473 and dealer canceled with NTN, and you close it out 34 and 35.
Yeah,
And you can write in box 32, customer didn't return.
yeah. We use the term GNT, or gun not transferred.
Yeah.
which means everything went right, but the gun just never went out the door for whatever reason. And you are responsible for retaining those forever because you had a control number in box 27B and you sign those, but do not date them. Yep. All right. Tyler says clarification. Notify the ATF of the transfer did not occur. So yeah, no, you do not need to notify anyone.
No, there's no reason to notify them.
Yeah. Yeah. So that file, what's that file called again? What do you call it, JC?
Dealer canceled. Did not transfer.
Cancels.
Yeah, dealer canceled with NTN.
Yeah, you might call them incompletes or no
Yeah.
sales. ATF calls them a bunch of different things, but
Yep.
they'll be looking for those forms. They have to be completed through box 35.
Yep.
Don't think you don't have to fill in all those other boxes. They'll look at those when they do your inspection.
Yep.
Yeah. Richard said, "What's the process to upgrade my FFL from Type 1 to Type 7?"
No such thing as upgrading. You would apply for an entirely new license.
Yeah, again, with licensing questions, just contact JC directly.
Yep.
Hey, guess what? I'll chat. Let me move that to, I'll put his, okay. Judy says again, I have had men buy handguns for their own wife or girlfriend by bringing them in to pick out their own gun as a gift, but the man or husband pays for it. If the conditions make it obvious she is picking out her own gun, and that should be legal, I assume, even though he didn't get a gift card.
Yep. You're 100% correct. You qualified their interest, qualified their intent. They portrayed or displayed all of the behaviors that are consistent with the scenario of the wife buying the gun. Maybe the husband sitting there and coaching her and asking to see different firearms for her. But for all intents and purposes, the way the interaction is going, it appears that the firearm is truly for the wife. Bing, bang, boom, you're good to go.
Yep.
And you can
And
always
just
ask the question, is this a gift? Type scenario.
yeah. Yeah, we used to call it ask, make sure you know the story. You should know the story in each and every handgun sale or transfer.
Yeah.
If you're ever asked about that gun, it might have been a week, a month, or maybe 6 months ago. And you're gonna have to raise your right hand and attest to the fact that you qualify every customer with interest and intent, and you wouldn't have sold somebody a gun who wasn't the true recipient and future possessor of that gun, right? Yeah, always get the story. You got to talk to your customers. Robbie says, if I am one of the responsible persons on the
Yep.
license, do I have to update my address with the ATF if I moved during the last year?
No, you do not. No, no
Uh,
requirement for that. Not for
yeah,
your personal address,
right.
no. For the license address, 100%, but not for you personally.
Yeah. All right, just two more questions. If you got more, plug them in there. Chad says, so what is the difference between a Henry Axe, Mossberg Shockwave, and a TAC 14? One is a pistol, one is a pistol grip firearm, and the other is a firearm, even though they are very similar.
Yeah. So the Mossberg Shockwave and the TAC 14 are all considered pistol grip firearms. You can use firearm or other as well. They're pretty much interchangeable, and the ATF is accepting of that. The Henry Axe is just a little bit different, the way it was designed. And typically, when these manufacturers come up with a new design of a firearm, they will send a prototype into FAT D with the ATF to get an opinion on it. So,
Yeah, good question, though. It is very
yep.
confusing. That's why we're,
Yeah,
trying to.
there's a lot of movement in what we call the firearm or other category because it's basically an underserved market with very limited manufacturers and models of firearms that fall into those categories. So a lot of the manufacturers are trying to find ways to, obviously promote sales and promote their products and are operating in that space now because there's so little in that space.
Yeah, and with this lifting of the tax burden come January, everyone wants to get into that because it was prohibitive before with the filing and the taxes of the fees, but now this market we think is going to kind of blow up on us here. So we want to get you educated, and we'll keep you educated as new things come on the market. If you see strange things, strange firearms send them our way, we'll make sure we help educate.
Yep. You
Byron
can always
says,
send us pictures of firearms and we can get clarification as well.
"Yep, yep." You can text those to us too. Byron says the ATF Gun Show publication says an out-of-state dealer at a gun show can
Can dispose of
dispose of
firearms.
firearms as long as it is a curio or relic to a licensee, and all laws in both states are followed. My inspector said he didn't think that was right and said the brochure isn't the regs. What's correct on this?
Well, I don't know if the brochure is accurate or not because I haven't read it in forever, but I can tell you that an FFL operating out of the state of their premise, whatever is on their license, there are a number of requirements, and those requirements are very specific. Firearms must be transferred to an in-state FFL prior to the date of the show and must be acquired by that FFL prior to the date of the show. And then you can operate in basically in a joint effort with that FFL to sell your firearms locally. You know, I would tell you that if you have more specifics for me, it's weird that this curio and relic thing is coming up more and more lately. I would say reach out to me and let's discuss the situation. Curio and relic licensees, type threes, yes, they're an FFL, but they're really a collector, is what they are. So
Yeah,
Curio and Relic Type 3s can buy firearms anywhere in the country because they're buying them to enhance their own collection.
right. And that did come up last week too with somebody else. We didn't dig into that. I didn't dig into it because I went with JC's explanation as I understood it as well. So, Byron, I'm going to take this and we're going to go ahead and dig into it for you. So, we'll get back to you on that one. All right, Nathan says, can you explain state restrictions for black powder? Which states require them? Nathan, very simply, there's too many. There's not too many. It's just that they're different for each state. So go to our guide, go out to our website, download the guide. Under each, there's a chart on page 1, which shows you which states have black powder regulations.
Yep.
And then just go to that state reference on the following pages and you'll see the explanation. So,
Yeah. And keep in mind, it's true black powder, not the smokeless black powder. Most dealers have smokeless black powder, and this is true black powder.
yeah, this is explosive black powder, right?
Yeah, this is I have to have a federal explosives license to have the black powder, black powder.
Yeah. And our black powder regulations also talk about black powder firearms, muzzle loading versus breech, et cetera, et cetera. So, and also, shipping and selling. So we've done a pretty good, extensive dig into all of that. And then Judy says, I'm in the process of selling my store. Do I have to end my FFL?
That all depends. Do you want to? Give me a call on that, Judy. I'm happy to walk you through your options as far as that's concerned. You can keep your FFL and just amend it to a new property. You can't transfer the FFL. Let me repeat that. You cannot transfer that FFL to the new owner. They must apply for their own FFL. Not to mention the fact that they shouldn't want to adopt your FFL. You should want to close out all those records, etc. So there's some options for you there. Just give me a call and I'll be happy to talk you through it.
Yeah, and JC, I think she's one of our PRMs, so
Yep,
you
that's
may have
fine.
talked to her before. All right, and I think that's it, guys. Byron, thank you very much. We got that publication. We'll dig into this, get back to you, email. And if anybody else has anything, you type it in. Otherwise, we're going to see you guys. We have it slated for December 15th. We'll give you some updates. I'll make sure that link works right. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. If you got questions, find us online. Give us a text or call. Email is the last thing we look at the end of the day. And we wish you well and have a good holiday.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.